Hello, amazing educators, school leaders, and lifelong learners from all over the world. You're welcome to the Teachers Podcast brought to you by TalentHut TESOL Academy, an institution committed to empowering teachers with lifelong skills across borders. And with me today is a special guest, a very special one. I'm going to be running through a profile so we can get to meet her. Okay, so right now we are diving in. She is someone that sits right at the intersection of education, technology, and ethics. She is also a co-founder of Skill Future and an AI in education strategist, educator, and international speaker with over 16 years of experience spanning ESL, adult education, and teacher training. What truly set her apart is a focus on helping schools and institutions move away from reactive AI adoption and toward intentional, governed, and human-centered AI integration. Through Scaling Future, she designs strategic AI roadmaps, AI literacy programs, and ethical frameworks grounded in real classroom and policy reality, not hype. Now, she has a background in journalism and extensive international experience, and she brings a strong systems thinking approach to education, consistency, advocating for responsible AI that strengthen learning, agency, and trust. You may wonder, who is she? Everyone watching right now, please join me as I welcome Andy Lucchesi to the Teachers platform. Andy, you're welcome to the Teachers Podcast, and we are super excited to have you with us. Welcome on board.
Thank you, Endurance, for this invitation. You make me sound so great. I just
Of
love it. Thank you.
course, you are so special. Okay, you're so welcome, and we are really super excited to have you here with us. So,
Yeah.
dear teachers, right now, watching me right now, I want you to get your cup of coffee or perhaps a cup of water and maybe a popcorn because today's episode is going to be life transforming. We have Andy, and she's ready to help us understand all about the theme for today's episode. So I would be bringing out the question right now so we can dive in. Okay, Andy, are you ready for us?
Yeah, I'm ready. Thank you.
Okay, all right. There we go. Okay, so we have the theme strategic AI implementation in education, the new technological era, with a sub theme building strategic planning and AI literacy to keep the humans in the loop. We are right in on the section one, which is the grounding and credibility. So, want to know more about you, Andy? Can you tell us about your journey into education and how AI became part of your major work?
Well, thank you, Endurance. I didn't start in AI itself. My journey as an educator and first as a social communicator, as a journalist, started long ago. So I am the kind of person that you may call a generalist because I have done many different career shifts that, or as they call it, career shifts, but I call it career expansions rather. Why do I call it like that? Because in this case, it's not that I have hop on in the next new trend. It's just that I have hop on the things that make sense to me as an individual first. And so I could deliver professionally a lot better. And the way that artificial intelligence came into my life is because I have always wanted to be more productive, but at the same time deliver quality. As a human, we are limited in many aspects. So there are very few hours in the day to do all the things that we want. And since I am a yes kind of person, I usually, it maybe in the past, I was the kind of person who chew more than I can bite. So yeah, so in this particular case, AI came into my life as initially 3 years ago to be more productive, do more. But then I realized that it made me better. It made me sharper. It gave me the capability to not only say yes, but to do it with quality. So I decided to deep dive into the world of artificial intelligence and how it could be applied into education. Now, let's make it very clear. When I got into AI, I didn't want to just leave my brain into the machine and, like, okay, do it for me. Quite the opposite. I wanted to understand why and how is it that it could help me in ways that I can become better with the tool or entity, and not the other way around, you see? So that's how I got into AI. So it wasn't this fascination towards technology, it was the frustration of certain traditional limitations that I had in the past. So that's when AI became central to my work, not as a tool, but not as a tool to replace teaching, but as a way to redesign the way how I think, learn, and make decisions.
Amazing, amazing. So you're going into AI is really to make things better for you, more quality, but a faster results. I want to wrap it that way.
Yes, in a way, yes.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, that's beautiful. All right. Now, in your profile, we saw that you are a co-founder of Future, or
Upskilling.
Skill and Future. So my
Yes.
question, yes, Skill and Future. My question for you now is, what inspired you to be a co-founder of Skill and Future, and what problem were you trying to solve?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I started almost 3 years ago deep diving into artificial intelligence and how it could be applied ethically and responsibly in education. So this career expansion, as I call it, not career shift, but career expansion, for me was actually really interesting because I started getting to know people that were not only amazing, but just brilliant. So their brilliance, their beautiful brains inspire me even further to continue. Like, for example, in your case, that I met you. And this new AI adventure for me has made me not only sharper, but had made my networking like just a gem, one after the other. So that's how I met my brilliant and beautiful business partner Shahida Rehman, and she originally already had the preconception of Skilling Future because she wanted to make a change in the AI era, and in education. And we met through a conference that she was designing. She was the owner of that conference, and we're seeing this huge amount of interesting people that I met and like long time ago, and I was like, why am I not invited to this conference? So I sent her a message, a direct
Wow.
message through LinkedIn, and I was like, hey, listen, I have an idea. I would like to talk about this and that. What do you think? Can I be a speaker? And she said yes, and the rest is history. So
Wow.
future, yes, and from there, it's one of the most beautiful professional friendships that I have had so far in my life, because she, as an individual, is what keeps me as a co-founder and the rest of the team going. She is a really incredible human being. So In to answer your question, because that's a little bit of context about how all this started, Skill and Future came from a very practical gap, you see, because the Skill and Future, as we see it consolidated today, was or it is meant to cover that gap. Schools, educators, and institutions were being told at some point that they needed AI, but no one was helping them to with the questions about the why, how, or under what conditions. It's sort of like, hey, this is AI, I'm throwing this bomb, on into your office, and then run away with it, right? So basically what we wanted is to create more conversations that were not necessarily about the tools, but about readiness, about responsibility, and long term impact about AI implementations in educational ecosystems. So, we wanted to build a bridge between education spaces or educational spaces, classroom reality, and decision making structures, not just schools, but learning ecosystems as a whole.
Hmm. That's so interesting to know. We are really getting to know you better. You have a lot, a lot. All right, now we want to talk about your background in journalism.
Yeah.
How's your background in journalism shape the way you approach education and technology?
Um, you know that long time ago, when I started in education, I thought that, my first career as a journalist was, this kind of like, oh, it was a mistake, a waste of time doing this career. But then life taught me that nothing that you learn in life gets wasted. So journalism trained me to ask uncomfortable questions and to destruct simple narratives. It helped me to learn quickly that the first vision of a story is rarely the full one. So it helped me think better and more deeply. So that mindset deeply influences my work in education and in AI. I don't take claims at face value. I look for what's missing, who benefits, and who carries the consequences. So journalism also taught me the responsibility of language, how framing shapes perceptions, fear, or trust. It made me a better communicator and to put order into my thoughts. So, in education, especially with AI, language does matter. So, if we frame AI as magic, people disengage. But if we frame it as threat, people panic. So, my role often is to slow the conversation down and to restore that clarity. So, that's how journalism has uh, made my mindset a lot better through the years.
Wow, that's amazing to know. Now we have been talking about you. We've come to know more about you. Now let's dive in now to AI in school. And now my question goes this way. Many schools are rushing into AI. What does reactive AI adoption actually looks like in real classroom?
Well, probably any educator or policymaker, stakeholder involved in an educational ecosystem, probably the key word here is reactive adoption. So, reactive adoption usually looks like confusion dressed up as innovation. So, that's why this urgency that we hear all the time, and honestly, I detest every time that I see a video where people are like so hyped and so excited. And I'm kind of like, why are you selling this in this way? It's so irresponsible. So teachers are told to use AI, but without really a clear guidance, time, or shared understanding. Students, on the other hand, use tools that are in a way that is unsupervised, and this makes it even dangerous, more dangerous. And policies appear after problems, not before. This is a typical, thing or way of doing things that we have been gotten used to. But that is something that has to change, and artificial intelligence is once again one of those opportunities in life where we can reshape the narrative. So in classrooms, this often means AI is either banned or for example, quality use in ways no one talks about. Because there are educators that are AI champions and nobody are supporting them. So neither approach helps learning, in any case, because it's chaotic. So reactive adoption, to finalize my answer, creates inconsistency, anxiety, and a loss of trust between students, educators, and anybody involved in the context.
Thank you so much for that clarity. Surely teachers, students, the surely need someone to guide them. So AI may
Mm.
not end up being harmful to them, rather than the main reason why AI comes, make our life easier, better, and even with quality.
I love
Now
that.
this will lead us,
Before we
yes.
continue, I love that reflection, especially because we have a tendency to, instead of like stopping and analyzing situations, we have a tendency
Yeah.
to just consume more, right? It's part of our society mentality, right? But especially when we're talking about youngsters or youth, specifically when we're talking about not necessarily kids that are in primary school, but let's talk about our teenagers and young adults that are in early years of college, for example. We blame artificial intelligence for a lot of wrong decisions that the human is making, you see. So the thing here is that we need to shift the narrative and understand that we need to reset and create a conversation where values and ethics have to be first in order for these humans make better decisions. The adults, that is a different context because then it's under other realm of responsibility, you see? So, but that's where we should be looking at.
That is true. I strongly agree with you. Now moving on to still on AI. Well, we're moving on to the next question. What is one common myth about AI in education that you think could be harmful or actively harmful?
A common myth that usually affects people, especially, is to think that we need to impose artificial intelligence no matter what in their space. Especially when we're talking about pedagogical spaces, if you don't need, if you're the subject that you're teaching or the lesson, the activity that you're doing doesn't really need to use AI, why is it that you're using it in the first place? Just because it is there, it doesn't mean that you need to grab it. You see, we have a computer. It doesn't mean that we need to use a computer every time in the classroom. There are many different ways. So a myth that I would go over is that one. Like you don't need AI, and if you believe that it can improve it, try to analyze it in a way that it's transparent and that it makes sense to the evolution of learning in your classroom.
It's fine. That's very beautiful to know that. Okay, now we're talking about ethics. When it comes to ethics, why is ethic non-negotiable when AI enters education?
Well, I would say that it's non-negotiable to ethics are non-negotiable because education shapes people, not products, you see. So AI systems influence how learners think, how they evaluate information, and how they perceive authority. If we introduce these systems without ethical consideration, we risk outsourcing responsibility without accountability. This is what I was mentioning a little bit earlier, you see. So when I'm talking about
Mhm.
responsibility, it's because we are a foundational set of values in our core that are there and appear as this light, red, green, good, bad, depending on the situation and the context. And then accountability appears also in the conversation because in this particular case, people need to understand that they will be held accountable. If A happens, B is going to be the result. So ethics is what keeps humans in the loop. not as supervisors, but as decision makers.
Hmm, that's interesting. Ethics is very powerful then. I would say what keeps one to make a decisive decision,
Yeah.
that's fine. Okay, now we're moving on to the next question that talked about how can teachers use AI without outsourcing professional judgment?
Hmm. Well, that's a hard one. Give me a second to think. Well,
It's okay.
by I would say that by treating AI as a thinking partner, not as a decision maker. One of the biggest mistakes that I see, and this can go into the collection of myths that maybe we were mentioning before. Um, Usually people like to just brain dump whatever it is into the AI, and whatever is the result, that's what they're going to take. Teachers and whatever responsible user really should remain the ones who define goals, evaluate quality, and interpret the context. AI can support planning, feedback, or exploration, but judgment must stay human. So when teachers, or any user for that matter, understand this distinction, AI becomes empowering instead of threatening, and betters the quality of the output.
Thank you very much, Andy. You are dishing value, and I must say, you are doing it the right way.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, you're welcome. Now, if AI is adopted without ethical or governance framework, um, what risk rather will school face if AI it was to be adopted without ethical or governance framework?
The answer in this specific case, it's quite simple, but rather important, if not essential. Loss of
Okay.
trust is the biggest one. People
Mm,
will lose trust without clear structures. And perhaps whoever is going to be listening to this podcast or is listening right now, you understand that when there is a lack of structure, for any context, let's specifically talk about educational environments, there is a risk of inconsistent practices, data misuse,
okay.
and blurred accountability. And this is what causes chaos. So when something goes wrong, and it will at some point, no one knows who is responsible. Governance isn't about control, it's about protecting relationships between schools, teachers, students, and families. That's how we should see governance. It is what gives, it's the legal part of the ethics. The ethics is the human part, governance is the legality of that ethical aspect.
That's fine. That's beautiful. I love the fact that you talk about trust.
Yes.
Now, yes. Now, what do you think, or how can you answer this question for us? How can AI now be introduced in ways that build trust rather than fears in teachers or students? How can they build trust?
Well, you're giving me like the hardest questions. Okay. Well, but honestly, I have to say, like in any relationship, you see, by being honest and involving people in at an early stage, nobody wants to be to get things imposed. People want to be part of the conversation. Trust grows when people, educators, are trained, not surprised. We as educators, and whoever that is an educator in the room, how many times we have been overwhelmed by the newest decision from the board, right? Like because they
Mhm.
wanted to be cool, or because they wanted to be on top of things, or to cover some sort of thing that they should have done 2 years ago. So nobody wants to be surprised. So when students understand why AI is used, they are going to make more sense, and they're not going to feel that again something else is going to be imposed, or this new thing that they have to learn, and the I'm so bored and so annoyed kind of faces that they usually put in the class, right? Or
Yeah.
use it wrongly, right there in the classroom or at home, and then having the typical discussions of mistrust, like you're copying and this sort of thing. So when limits are explained clearly, fear often comes from silence or rushed decisions. So transparency creates safety and spaces where people can communicate openly and ask those questions. Errors create the kind of data that we need in order to reshape whatever it is that we want as an output.
I agree with that. So instead of coming in with like a bloom of surprise, well, detailed explanation can actually gain trust. Yeah, I
Yeah,
picked that.
yeah,
Thank you, Andy. Now we're going to the next one. You are an ESL
yeah,
teacher,
yes.
right? Good.
Yes, I have that specialty too.
In fact, an expert. I read that in your profile. Now, I want to ask, how does AI change language learning? Should I
Um,
rather ask, is it for worse or for better?
Everything that has to do with artificial intelligence, if it's for when you use it for the worst, like because you don't use it ethically or responsibly, it's because of your fault. But let's focus on the for the better, right? Especially when it comes to
Okay.
language learning. Specifically for ESL, apart from everything that the things that we have been talking today, I
Yeah.
have an Instagram channel, and starting one on TikTok. They have the same name account, which is andys.everyday.english. And I talk specifically about how either you are an educator or you are a student, can implement artificial intelligence in your daily practices in order to, but of course, ethically and responsibly, in order to get further with your goals, right? So at
Wow.
its best, AI offers learners more practice, which is always, I usually once a month go live. Never on the same date because it really depends on what's going on in my schedule, but I do try to come to go live once a month in that channel. And I always talk about exposure. AI gives you that. Especially now that when we're talking about the voice modes, it give us the possibility to interact, even if it's not human, but human-like. We have the capacity as young adults and adults, because again, this is not a conversation that you should have when it's related to minors. Let's make that very clear. I'm talking about my young adults and adults from 18 up. The conversations that you can have, for example, with AI voice modes are unbelievable, especially if you give a specific framework. So it gives you the possibility to build confidence, and especially for those that feel anxious to speak in a second language, or to speak in general, because it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's a matter of how you communicate in general, because acquiring a language is one thing, learning how to communicate is something else. So that's why, for example, from my point of view, it is always going to work for the best, obviously, if you use it intelligently.
Well done, Andy. Okay, dear viewers, right now, fellow educators, if you can hear me right now, get a pen and get a book. This might be just what you need to grow. Now, quickly go to TikTok and search for Andy dot everyday English, right? Andy, is that it?
It's with the letter S, andys.everyday.english. And my main account is actually on Instagram, and I am trying to, grow the one on TikTok. So yeah, thank you.
So good. So, dear viewers, if you get it, if you don't get it, just pause the video, rewind it back, and get the capture. You surely learn from her. Okay. All right, now we're going to the next question that says, what role should prompt design play in helping students think better and not just faster?
I love this question. Since we're talking about better communication, I have developed a strategy. I did this almost 2 years ago. And this strategy basically is how, especially when you are a second language learner, how to reorganize the way that you think in order to talk to the large language model specifically. And when I talk about large language model, I'm talking about ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, that lately is just giving chef kiss, like the kids say, all the time because it has improved tremendously when it comes to its answers and the interactions and the things that you can do in that platform. So, in this case, prompting is a skill that we have to develop because if it's already complex to communicate amongst humans, because of all the background context, the different languages, our culture, etc., so on and so forth, which makes it even more beautiful. But imagine that we are talking specifically about this entity, which is this generative AI, better known, typically as ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, as I mentioned before, as large language models. Yes, they use natural language as it is called because it's the way that we communicate in natural language. But for it, it's code. So it doesn't think as we humans do. It doesn't have our same patterns, you see? So the way that this entity develops its thinking or its analysis in order to give us an output matters. That's why, to put it simply, when you, for example, introduce an answer and it's giving you rubbish, you're like, what is this? It's because, well, you need to structure that better. There are millions of content creators and educators like myself, for example, that we do have prompt libraries. We constantly give advice about how to communicate. For example, in on my Instagram, I have pinned. That is one of the things that I have there pinned. Like, how is it that you can prompt better because it is essential. So it is about communication initially rather than just the language. And of course, if you do it in English, it does have better, you do have better possibilities at this point, to have better answer, right? But again, it's because these large language models are quite biased. But that is another conversation, perhaps, right?
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. There was a point in time I used Chat GPT. So I type in a prompt and boom, what I got is not what I wanted. I was like, no, this is not what, like, I know this is not what I wanted, but I just cannot figure it out. So I need to tell the Chat GPT that this is not what I want. I couldn't really explain what I wanted, but I just knew that was what I want. That's not what I wanted.
Yeah. I mean,
Perhaps,
it,
yeah,
to make it, like to give it like an image. Imagine that, for example, there is an intern at your company or your school, right? This
yeah.
person has a brief connection with you and probably is going to be gone soon. That is how
Yes.
the non-paid version, the free version of ChatGPT or most large language models
Oh.
feel like. So because they even they don't keep the memory of you, they don't know who you are. So it's sort of like the connection and the bond is not there, you see?
Mm.
But for example, for the paid version, and now there is like a cheaper version of, I believe it's $10 or something like that. But there is
Oh.
another one that I use, for example, the pro version, which is $20. There are different versions of it, and that conversation is different. Of course, that the structure matters, free or
Yeah.
paid, it doesn't matter. Um, and usually it gives you a very, very good result regardless. but it makes a huge difference, you see, and this goes for most of the platforms. For Google, though, right now, even if you pay or not, the results are just quite flawless lately. So
Okay, thank you very much. So I think I may think about venturing on the paid version. All right, and then the next question goes directly to me and all teachers watching us right now.
hmm,
The question is, what foundational AI literacy should you think I did I even mention what I do? Yes, my bad. I am a teacher and I am teaching gerunds. Now, what foundational literacy or AI literacy do you think every teacher should have as of now? Yes.
of course. And this is such an important question. Thank you. Thank you for asking this, especially because
Okay.
again, it's part of like debunking the myths, right? Teachers do not need
Yes.
to be technical experts. I am the living proof. I cannot be
Yeah.
more from the humanity sides of life. So in this particular case, I am the kind of person that I just learned the conceptual part of it. And that is the advice that I give teachers. They just need to hop on the conceptual clarity and aspects of artificial intelligence, better known as what we have heard, like, for example, AI literacy, because AI literacy
Yeah.
is sort of like an umbrella that covers everything. So, what you should do is understand what AI can and cannot do, where bias and error come from, and how AI affects thinking and learning. Most importantly, what I honestly believe is that what we should do, and I include myself here, is to feel confident saying no when something doesn't align with your values and objectives in the classroom. I do understand that sometimes for some schools it can be an agenda to introduce artificial intelligence, but you as the educator in the room and for the safety of our students, young adults
Mhm.
also, because I'm also including the ones that are in higher education, we need to understand that it is our responsibility as educators to say no because it might not be benefiting, but it is important that when we say no it comes from a place of knowledge and not from a place of fear, you see, and that is a huge difference. That no makes a huge difference because then you can have arguments to explain why is this no to that specific agenda.
Thank you so, so much. And we're coming close to the end of this podcast. And I must say, it has been thrilling so far.
Thank
Now,
you.
the next one, you're welcome, ma'am. Now, the next one is the first. I want to know, or I want to ask, what is the first responsibility or responsible steps school leaders should take when building AI policies?
Right now, the project that Shahida and Art are developing in Skilling Future is exactly this. We have created a very specific framework that is designed to introduce and implement artificial intelligence in AI ecosystems. So, what we have learned in our research and throughout our learning, and whenever it is that we do the teacher trainings and talk to the parents and everything related to what we do, is that we have to listen actively before anything is implemented. So policies should reflect classroom reality, not assumptions. There is a lot of assumption out there instead of actually taking note of the real data. So if you are a leader, you need to understand how teachers and students are really or already utilizing AI. From there, you can build shared principles instead of imposing rules from the top down without making any sense.
Hmm. Thank you for sharing this. Okay, now, do we have any parent teachers watching us right now? Or rather, do we have parents watching us right now, this may be just what you've been thinking about. Now, Andy, the question goes this way. What should you say about parents? Like, I know there are a lot of parents, they're so concerned, they're so worried about their children, and they wonder if real learning, if AI will replace real learning. I want to know what advice, what do you have to say to such concerned parents, I would say.
To the parents, let's remember that it's all about the values, the core foundational values that we have at home, and that we educators at school reinforce with the values and visions of the school itself, right? That's a good place to start. But it is important to understand that for those schools and those educators that are trying to do things ethically and responsibly, we are the ones who know that AI, and this is something that you should also have in mind, that AI doesn't replace learning. Poor implementation does. That's why you, as a parent and you, as an educator or school leader, you have to take this seriously. Real learning has always depended on guidance, reflection, and human connection. AI can support those processes, but it cannot replace them. It cannot replace them because it is a thing, it is an entity. It is totally different from human. So parents should ask not whether AI is present, but how is it being used and who remains responsible? We have to teach our kids to use it responsibly because if we say the no, the previous no that I was mentioning, like just a full no without actual reasoning, we're going to create a gap to our kid that is going to be living in an AI reality. You see, it is as if you and I, for example, Endurance 20 years ago, our parents would have said, no, the computer is not for you, or the internet doesn't exist in your world. Where
That
would
is
you be?
true.
So we need to understand that the reality that our kids and those young adults that are right now, for example, in college years, the ones that are in high schools and the ones that are right now in primary schools, they're going to live a reality that it is going to be for them the norm. For us, it's just something that we're learning how to exist, but for them, it's going to be the norm. So we need to understand that how, instead of prohibiting things, to do like to enter the conversation with open mindedness and understanding that it is their world and it is for them, not for me.
Thank you so much, Andy, for this clarity. So, dear parents, I know you want the best for your children, but do know, like what Andy said, AI is not replacing real learning. Only poor implementation can affect it. So, rest assured that AI can enhance learning if being used very well. Okay, we are coming to the last question, and this question is like is like is like a pearl, I would say, because even I am going to carry it with me, like wherever I'm going. I remember this is Andy's last message in this podcast. Okay, so the question is. If you are to leave a message for the viewers right now, watching you right now, what is one message you would want them to carry with them? And what would that be? I cannot wait to hear that. I'm already having my back to put it in. Yes, Sandy.
Well, and this is going to be like an open message because it's going to be reframing and I'm going to be reframing it and it like iterating it through time. So far, I have to say that understanding and gaining new skills for the future that enhance your humanity is what it's important. AI is not really the transformation, at least for us humans. What I want to say is that AI itself is a revolutionary creation and idea that we humans have created, but it is not the transformation. The real transformation with the and within the AI era is how we choose to think, live, teach, and take responsibility in its presence. If we stay intentional, curiosity is something that should be always encouraged and grounded in human judgment. I strongly believe that AI can straighten education and our lives. If we rush or abdicate responsibility, it will expose our weaknesses. Artificial intelligence is a magnifier of who we are, good, bad. The future of education, honestly, isn't automated. It has to be deliberate.
Wow. I told you I'm going to carry this in my back whenever I'm
You.
going. So when I want to take AI should be like an answer, not what can deform you. Use it to enhance your skill, to build personality, to build real life qualities, not the other way around. It has been such an amazing time with you, Andy. Thank you so, so much for giving us this valuable knowledge about all about AI. I know this journey is not going to stop here. So, our amazing educators, school leaders, anyone watching us right now, I am going to be dropping the link to Andy's social media um, handles so you can
Yes.
learn more about her. And then the institution, the academy that is sponsoring this podcast, TalentHut TESOL Academy, is a platform for teachers around all the world. And like I said earlier, on, this academy is committed to empowering teachers to build real life skills that will enhance them, enhance their way of living, improve them as a general. So please, you can also check us on Facebook, and of course, would also drop the social media link so you can learn more about us. Now, my last questions to everyone. Learning never ends. So remember that the more you learn, the more growth, the more successful you will become, and the more eye-opening you will see. So don't forget, learning never ends. Keep on learning, keep on growing until another podcast. Andy, thank you once again for coming to this platform. We are really happy to see you, and I can't wait to see you more often in another podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. Bye, everyone.
All right, and have a great evening next time. Bye. One love.